From December to March of 1996, a wave of chaotic murders takes place in the village of Bratkovichi and the small town of Busk in the Lviv region. 16 people die as a result. All local law enforcement officers are focused on catching the killer. Whoever finds the criminal is promised a cash reward. A 29-year-old auto mechanic, Yuri Mazola, becomes a suspect. After his arrest, his mother is notified of his death. Abuse of power, mechanical asphyxia. After his arrest, the young man did not sign a confession. When the mother received her son's body, it showed signs of beatings. Yuri's neighbor identified him to investigators. A couple of weeks later, the investigators arrest the real killer. It turns out to be a notorious criminal, whose name remains well known far beyond Ukraine. His name is Anatoly Onoprienko. Hi, I'm Angelina. We're continuing the project where we tell you about high-profile crimes and very dangerous people. Your likes and activity on this video help us keep working. Thank you. Thank you. At the end of the last century, entire families fell victim to Anatoly Onoprienko. In 1999, he was convicted for the murder of 52 people, 11 of whom were children. The youngest victim of the criminal was only 3 months old. Anatoly Onoprienko's crimes occurred in 2 phases. We will tell you about them soon. Anatoly Onoprienko was born in 1959 in the village of Losky, Zhytomyr region. His father, a former frontline soldier, abused alcohol, and when little Anatoly turned 1 year old, he left the family. 3 years later, Onoprienko's mother dies of heart failure. With his brother Valentin, who was 14 years older, he goes to live with his grandmother and grandfather. But soon he ends up in an orphanage, where he will live until he enters the forestry college, then the army and Odessa Maritime School. Until 1986, the future criminal worked on voyages on a passenger ship. They say even then, Onoprienko was stealing and breaking into safes, briefcases and bags in the cabins. The crew knows about the thefts, but they can't catch the thief at the scene of the crime.
I first met him in 2010 when I was the head of the National Department of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. We met 7 times. By the way, his childhood wasn't so catastrophic that you could directly connect it to this. His manic debut and his childhood. He left the Navy simply because his contract ended and he didn't get a new one. He wasn't taken back onto the same ship he had served on. Yes, they didn't take him back there. But most likely, again, it wasn't theft, but his unbearable character. He's unpleasant and hard to talk to. Extremely unpleasant.
After leaving the Navy, Onoprienko joins the fire department and lives with his girlfriend. They have a son. But the relationship didn't last long. Anatoly starts seeing another girl and soon leaves his family. In the late 80s, Anatoly Onoprienko meets his future partner, Sergei Rogozin. When Sergei Rogozin met Anatoly Onoprienko, he had already served in Afghanistan and received the Medal for Internationalist Soldiers. He was called an exceptionally good guy. Sergei is married and he is raising a 10-year-old daughter. The men are friends and run a small business together, selling fruits and vegetables. Anatoly Onoprienko suggests to his friend that they can make easy money by committing a robbery, marking the start of the murders. Over the course of 3 months in 1989, there were 3 such incidents. Their first crime is committed on June 14, 1989. Onoprienko plans to rob a parked car while his friend slowly drives nearby, ready to pick him up after getting the signal. The criminals find a suitable Zhiguli car in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Noticing a married couple sleeping in a car, Onoprienko shoots the man. He then orders the terrified wife out of the car. She tries to call for help, but Onoprienko kills her. The criminal hides the bodies in the forest belt and burns the car. They split the 30 rubles they earned and sold the car radio at the market.
I was a senior investigator for major cases at the main investigative department, Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. The homicide department, we spent a lot of time talking with Onoprienko. Yes, he asserted his power over the victim. Maybe it pleased him. Most likely it did. He enjoyed it. Not from the killing, but from the opportunity to have full legitimate control. Unconditionally, and let's put it this way. irrevocably with someone else's life. That's power. It's a kind of drug.
Someone addicted to it. To killing, the act of killing. Getting pleasure from it. Let's put it this way, from observing the phenomenon of death and dying. Moreover, this pleasure reached the level of physical pleasure, even to the level of orgasm. That's what drove their movement. Because, how can I put it, profit. Killing for profit is the ultimate, the most extreme degree. Other ways exist to make profit. For God's sake, you can just rob, you can steal in any way you want. There's absolutely no need to kill for that.
The accomplices committed the second armed robbery in the Rivne region on July 16th, a month after the first crime. On that day, the Vasilyuk couple from Polish Białystok were driving their Fiat to see their niece.
Inside the car, I saw a man and a woman sleeping. When the man grabbed the barrel of my weapon, I shot him at close range and then I shot the woman. We placed the bodies and the deceased's belongings in our car and drove away. I took the gold wedding ring from her hand, poured gasoline on the Fiat, removed the Polish license plates and set it on fire. When the Fiat caught fire, I walked to the highway where Rogozin was waiting for me. We drove away in our car with the stolen goods.
This crime proved lucrative for the accomplices as the victims were carrying many belongings and a large amount of money that day. Onoprienko is satisfied with the outcome of the crime, and in August the accomplices go to Odessa to sell the stolen goods. On August 16th, Onoprienko and Rogozin commit a third crime while returning from the southern city. This time there was a family of 5 in the car. A 45-year-old man, his 3 younger sisters aged 22, 25 and 27, and his 11-year-old son. The killer's loot, at the cost of 5 lost lives, amounted to 50 rubles.
I was a different person then, and if I knew there were 5 people, I would have left. Back then, in 1989, I was still half man, half beast. Now I'm a devil and feel no remorse. Back then, after killing those 5, I even tried to shoot myself.
He spoke about his accomplice rather condescendingly, and let's say from a position of superiority. Therefore, most likely he simply suppressed his accomplice with his charisma, and I don't think it was just threats involved. He simply brought him under his control, almost 100%. He suppressed his will through actions and words. First of all, he knows how to persuade, so he pressured everyone around him with his charisma.
6 months after the third crime, in February of 1990, Anatoly Onoprienko illegally crossed the border into Hungary. That marked the end of the first stage of Onoprienko's crimes. In just 3 months of 1989, the accomplices brutally killed 9 people, including an 11-year-old child.
He completely avoided the topic of children. Categorically, but I'll explain in a few words. Well, it was necessary so there wouldn't be any witnesses. Again, it's some kind of witness, but nothing alive was supposed to remain. And by the way, he mentioned that in a few other houses he also killed a cat and a dog. Everything alive had to be destroyed. In the area, within his range of action.
Onoprienko is certain they're after him. Abroad, he gets fake documents and even asks for political asylum at the embassies of Greece, Canada, and Spain, but he is refused everywhere. 4 years later, he is deported, so the killer ends up in Ukraine again.
I don't believe he didn't commit murders or act like a maniac there. We don't know what he did in Germany. Where else has he been? He went to the Czech Republic, but we know nothing about his adventures. Here is a clear episode starting from the Kiev region and up to Lviv. This is what he did.
He went to Portugal and back to Europe 4 times, while people here are looking for him like crazy, searching in Ukraine, Belarus, Transnistria, and Georgia. And he walked on foot across all of Europe to Portugal and back. And he says, no one will bother me, I just walk. I'm not breaking any rules. Who needs me there anyway? You can eat, earn money, and find a place to stay. Everything's fine, you don't need money. By the time you return, people have forgotten you.
After returning home, the man feels very tense and is afraid of being arrested. On May 31, 1994, something unusual happens to Onoprienko. After returning to Ukraine in the railway station building, he stands on one leg and stays in that position for literally the whole day. This is how Onoprienko pretends to be mentally ill, ends up in the police, and then spends 3.5 months in a psychiatric hospital. It is there that he realizes his crimes are still unsolved and no one is looking for him. Soon the killer is discharged. With no money or home, Anatoly stays with his older brother in Narodiki village, Zhytomyr region. Onoprienko can't find a job, so he increasingly thinks about returning to a life of crime. This is how the killer's second criminal stage begins. In October of '95, he steals a hunting weapon, ammunition and a knife from an acquaintance and starts killing again. His own brother Valentin would later recall this period of his life.
He said he sold goods both retail and wholesale, gave his wife an electronic watch, and gave me a jacket. I thought it was his own, that he had worn it before. I noticed that he started wearing different jackets and different pants, so it meant he had money coming in. There was nothing unusual in his behavior. He always says we live badly here and things will only get worse. As a family, we discussed the murders across Ukraine, with Anatoly also participating. When I found out that my brother was suspected of these murders, I was in shock. I can't put it into words.
In mid-January of 1996, Ukrainian investigators finally became convinced that the mass murders followed by robberies were being committed by one person. So all similar cases were combined into a series. At that time, Onoprienko had killed 43 people and thousands of people were involved in his capture. Anatoly Onoprienko was detained on April 14, 1996 while living in Yehorov, Lviv region. The arrest took place in his partner's apartment, where during a search, numerous pieces of evidence were found confirming Onoprienko's involvement in the murders.
At that time, no one was actively searching for Onoprienko alone. The official report states the entire country was searching for him, with a specific wanted notice issued. There are several versions. There's the official police version, which of course was released and appeared in press releases, about the results of the successfully conducted operational and investigative activities. The location of the person suspected of several crimes was determined, and a large arrest team was dispatched. The second version, more grounded, is the detective responsible for the area. He matched the description. The duty unit had a team that handled rapid response. He went to the address himself without waiting for them. He arrived just in time, though there was a small incident. Anatoly Yurievich had a sawed-off shotgun in one of his bags. The second sawed-off shotgun was in the closet. The detective managed to kick it with his foot, and a fight broke out there, and at that moment, the guys he hadn't waited for showed up. I believe the second version because it's more plausible.
If you take 1995 and 1996, when I shot at 43 people, it was just an ordinary hunt for people. The only difference between hunting a hare or a wolf was that this was a hunt for people.
Anatoly Onoprienko admitted to 52 murders during investigative experiments. The investigators were seriously afraid that the locals might kill the criminal, so sometimes they even put a bulletproof vest on him. After his arrest, during his cooperation with the investigation, the criminal repeatedly said that he had come into contact with some powerful force.
Today, maybe on Earth or maybe even in space, there are some higher powers that can influence certain people and program them from space or maybe even from Earth. Some people are meant for this. I believe I was ready for the role and did the job well.
Is it worth killing someone for 14 kopecks or a silver ring? That's when he began searching for deeper justifications about the fact that he was there. A voice seemed to guide him, with the universe giving clear hints and definitions. The higher mind defined the formula, calculated how many communists, homosexuals, and Jewish Freemasons needed to be killed. He's a hero, a messiah, gifted with something divine. So he attributed this formula to himself.
The trial of Anatoly Onoprienko began on November 3, 1998. His case filled 99 volumes and sparked public outcry. People called for vigilante justice for Onoprienko.
Others think I'm a killer maniac, but in reality I'm the biggest victim. I did all this and saw all of it. I suffered more than anyone. Well, what did they see after they came, cried, mourned, and that's it? But I did all of this. And I killed those innocent children who looked at you.
Along with Onoprienko, Sergei Rogozin was also in court. The serial killer gave up his accomplice during the investigation. On April 1, 1999, the court found Onoprienko guilty of committing 52 murders and sentenced him to the highest punishment, death penalty. Sergei Rogozin was sentenced to 13 years.
I want death. Personally, as a person, this life is no longer interesting to me. I'm satisfied I didn't commit a random murder, but planned ones because now a presidential decision will definitely lead to my execution, and I'm satisfied with that.
However, in 2000, Ukrainian President Leonid Kuchma signed a moratorium on the death penalty. Later, he personally asks an international organization to make an exception for Anatoly Onoprienko.
I don't see any other punishment except the death penalty. I'm ready to appeal to all international organizations because such monsters should not be on our land.
The president's request is denied, and Onoprienko's death sentence is changed to life imprisonment. The man spent about 17 years in a solitary prison cell. According to the staff of the Zhytomyr colony where he was held, the other inmates did not want to be in the same cell with him. On August 27, 2013, Anatoly Onoprienko died of heart failure. The criminal's relatives never visited him in prison and did not arrange a farewell for him. He was buried at the state's expense in a secret location.
It's my turn, Onoprienko. Overall, he made the impression of a truly extraordinary person. Whatever they said about him, that he had a poor education, nothing like that. But as an experienced investigator, I can say that this man overall, he possesses certain knowledge. Yes, this knowledge is terrifying. Yes, his practice is truly monstrous and devilish, but he is a treasure trove. He should have been preserved. By the way, this also applies to questions about the death penalty and so on. If we had executed him, nothing like this would have happened. People like this should be protected like the apple of your eye. They should be studied, and you need to communicate with them. Why? Because the next person might follow in his footsteps, and we will already understand.
Just like in the stories that were released on the channel before, we still try to tell you about people and different human expressions. We would appreciate it if you don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. See you soon.